The American Federation of Teachers, Randy Weingarten, is a tireless champion for AFT members across the entire country. Whether on the picket lines in LA, rebuilding homes in Puerto Rico, or rallying on behalf of public school teachers and students in West Virginia and the Red for Ed movement, Randy is a fighter. But what we most are proud of is that she is a NYSUT member. She is one of us, in tune with the critical issues and challenges that we face. And she is also a friend. And whenever we need her, she is there for us. Join me in welcoming AFT President, our dear friend, Randy Weingarten.
I'm getting shorter and shorter. Thank you, Andy. And thank you, Jolene and Philippe and Paul and all of the NYSUT leaders who are here and in the audience, and most particularly, thank you to the SRPs and the teachers and the healthcare professionals and the higher education faculty and staff and the government professionals and the retirees, every single one of whom makes up NYSUT. NYSUT is alive and well. We've talked a little bit. Andy just gave, oh good, I love the podium keeps on moving. So high tech. Andy just talked a bunch about what is happening around the country and what happened here in light of Janice. But I want to talk a bit about why I think we survived Janice and what I think we need to do in the future. Because at the end of the day, we survived Janice and we will thrive in spite of it, or maybe despite it, because you are the embodiment of what we do every day. We fight for Americans, not just America, but all of those of us who live here, to have a better life, a voice at work, and a voice in our democracy. That is who we are as unionists. That's who we are as educators, as nurses. That is in our DNA. And last year, as I was here, and a lot of us were, I think we were in Rochester, right?
Buffalo.
Oh, excuse me. We were in Buffalo. No, it's not right near Rochester. But my recollection is there was a lot of trepidation, and there was a lot of waiting. But there was a lot of other things, educating and engaging, from Buffalo to Bayshore, from Rochester to Rockland County. We didn't get the decision we wanted in Janice, and that day, 85,000 people wiped off our books that day. But despite everything that our enemies threw at us, the members knew what was at stake. And in the last year, the AFT has grown over 100,000 people. So, but look, the challenge isn't over, and you know as well as I do, we live in really tumultuous times. And it's not just the lunacy of Washington, where the president's lying and provocations are now quite expected, quite normalized. But we're also living in a bunch of other crises. And the one I want to talk about for a couple of minutes is the one that is sapping the soul out of teaching and hollowing out the teaching profession. Now you ask any teacher why she entered our profession, and she's likely to start talking about how she wants to inspire and nurture kids, cultivate the potential, make a difference in their lives. Anybody remember that? But then you ask teachers how they feel about teaching a year later, 2 years later, 3 years later, 31 years later, and you're likely to get reactions ranging from exasperation to tears. So what happens? It's not just Common Core testing or the stupidity of the test this year, and thank you, Jolene, for taking that on. It's overprescribed curriculum. It's standardized testing. It's paperwork, I can't even say the word. It's micromanagement. And it's the lack of freedom to teach our kids in a way that we believe is right. It's being told that the pacing calendar is the holy grail. It's getting in trouble for allowing students to debate for 2 days instead of 20 minutes. It's being treated as test preparation managers. It's drowning in a sea of paperwork because of data collection, data entry, and data reporting that nobody knows what that data goes for. And it's the crushing stress of being a teacher today. And when I say teacher, I'm talking about paraprofessionals as well. This has led, the paras are clapping up here. This has led to such disillusionment and disheartenment in our profession that, get this, teachers and other school employees are leaving our profession at a rate that is higher than any on record. Nearly 300,000 last year, 2/3 of whom are before retirement. At the beginning of last year, all 50 states had a teacher shortage, and schools serving majority of students of color and students living in poverty experienced the highest teacher turnover rates. And who's going to replace these teachers? Enrollment in teacher preparation programs have plummeted. Greg, thank you for this statistic. Just gave me a statistic today that in New York, enrollment in teacher prep programs has plunged 47% in the last decade. And the truth is, and I did get verklempt when we were talking about North Syracuse because it did actually lead me right back to NIAC and my mom's strike in 1975. But the truth is that those strikes, and I've been involved in a lot of them, they are because of 2 reasons. Massive disinvestment in public schools coupled with deprofessionalization of our profession. It's demoralizing to teachers and it hurts kids, and the AFT is combating both this year. First is the campaign to combat disinvestment on the state and national levels called Fund Our Future. And second is the new campaign, and I was honored that Jolene was there and Michael was there, the new campaign to elevate the teaching profession once and for all, to empower teachers, to trust teachers, called the Freedom to Teach. Betsy DeVos talks about freedom a lot. We need the freedom to teach. And that's why I went to the National Press Club last week and talked about these 2 strategies. And so, as people are again seeing public schooling as foundational to our democracy, we need to take this next step. You are already doing that, as nice it always is. It's always one step ahead of virtually everyone else in the country. And I love the Take a Look at Teaching and the Correct Our Test campaigns. But I want to just focus for a couple more minutes on this. Culture change is possible. And if you focus on 3 things, developing a culture of collaboration, creating and maintaining proper teaching and learning conditions, and ensuring that teachers have voice and agency befitting our profession. These things can be legislated, these things can be negotiated, and anybody who says otherwise, they are creatures of the status quo. And so here's a couple of examples of what I'm talking about. Collaboration is not just a word. It's a practice, and it starts with trusting teachers and working with them. So why not demand and create an environment that we develop policies from the school board to the principal's office with teachers, not to teachers. And how about this novel idea? Why not ask teachers, what do you need to do your jobs so that students succeed? Come on, I want you to repeat that. What do I need to do my job so that students succeed? Come on. What do I need to do my job so that students succeed? Practice that 3 times in the mirror tonight. And then use the answers as a basis of an audit of teaching and learning conditions. We could ask principals and parents and kids as well, but then act on those audit results. Let those audit results be what the district is held accountable for, or a superintendent is held accountable for, or a governor is held accountable for. That way, we'll have the teaching and learning conditions we need. And last, what about giving teachers real latitude to raise concerns, to try something new, to act in the best interest of their students without fear of retaliation? And Andy talked about the UFT 400-member negotiating committee. But in the last UFT contract, they negotiated a provision like this, and that means we can do this each and every place in New York State. And as Kevin Petterman, Barbara Bowen, Fred Cole, and Roberta Ellens will tell you, all of our higher ed amazing leaders, academic freedom, this freedom to teach, is a key cornerstone of every great higher education institution. We need to take this freedom to every single public school in America. And some people will say, no, it's not possible. You ask. Did you ask Sylvia Matusik, was it possible to go and strike in North Syracuse in 1976? Did you ask my mother, Edie Weingarten, whether she thought it was possible to go on strike in 1975? Did anybody wonder whether it was possible to actually get that evaluation system changed after we got it changed nationally? Did one wonder whether it was possible to defeat CONCON? It is possible when NYSET takes the power that you have, because in our union, we build that power through collective bargaining, through politics, through community engagement. We build that power when we unite people around the shared values Andy talked about, listening and connecting with each other, building coalitions, and then engaging in campaigns. We're creating community inside the union and then outside the union with our broader community. Because by working together, and many of you have heard me say this a lot, by working together, we accomplish what is impossible to accomplish alone by the value of belonging, and NYSET proved that this year. So, yes, Andy, there's 80 new lawsuits now, not just 75. There's their ad campaigns. As I said, we are stronger all across the country, but we're not resting on our laurels. We cannot. So other than this campaign for the freedom to teach, we are also launching 3 other campaigns. The one I just talked about in terms of Fund Our Future, and just this week, the Democratic-controlled House of Representatives put over $1 billion more in IDEA and $1 billion more in Title I. We're fighting for safe and healthy, welcoming environments in all our workplaces, and I was honored to be in Stony Brook yesterday with our nurses in PEF to fight for safe staffing. And just a week ago in Washington State, we won a bill that requires uninterrupted breaks for nurses. And then, the last campaign, and Andy talked about this as well, there is $1.5 trillion of student debt that is crushing America. This is a crisis that I bet affects every single person in this room or every family in this room. And the AFT is taking this on too. You heard about the student debt clinics. We're going to do that more and more and more. But there's also the advocacy in Congress, like Elizabeth Warren's great new bill that she is proposing to forgive student debt. And there's also the lawsuits, like taking on the lawsuit against Navient and pretty soon against Betsy DeVos for the sabotage they have done for the public service loan forgiveness program. And so, the last thing I just want to dwell on, because you're going to hear today from one of the 5,731 candidates. You're actually going to hear from a really wonderful person, Representative Tim Ryan. But as we approach 2020, this is a which side are you on moment. And I know we have members that voted for Donald Trump. And I don't, no. Let's, listen. We know what he has unleashed. The bigotry, the xenophobia, the anti-Semitism, the Islamophobia. And frankly, as a civics teacher and as an activist, I do worry about our democracy. And I do believe, and I do not think it's hyperbole or hysteria, that if we lose the 2020 election, we will lose our democracy. But I think the real concern for most Americans is the economic, the healthcare, and the education issues. And the president likes to say this is the best economy ever. And it's certainly a great economy for Wall Street. But only 12% of Americans say that their families have benefited a great deal from this economy. And 60% of voters just this week said the economic system mainly benefits those in power. And this one is the stat that just gets me and keeps me up at night. In this best ever economy, 40% of Americans can't put together $400 in an emergency. And that, my friends, includes some people in this room, including some of our PSRPs and some of our adjuncts. And so rather than address this, which is like a real person's issue, what did the president and Mitch McConnell and Paul Ryan do? They gave huge tax breaks to the wealthy and to corporations. And those tax breaks ended up hurting every single state that has significant state and local taxes they use for services, like New York State, which will lose over $2 billion this year, which made the fight for resources so much harder this year, even with a new democratically controlled Senate. So America needs a president who will fight for a better life for all of us. Someone who believes in decency and democracy, not someone who's a schoolyard bully. But frankly, we won't win if our members sit on the sidelines. And how many of us have members in our locals that say, don't get involved in politics, don't get me involved in politics, why are you involved in politics? But if we're not all involved in politics in 2020, we won't win. And so that's why, with Andy's help, who's the head of our Political Action Committee, the AFT created a very new and a very different presidential endorsement process this year. And it's focused on two things. Yes, of course, it's focused on electing someone in the White House who shares our values. But it's also focused on the greatest member participation ever. So the process is about making sure that you get to know these candidates and they get to know you. Not that the candidates get to know me. I get to meet with them all the time. They get to know you, and you get to ask them hard questions. And that we don't make a decision about endorsement until it's clear that we have a candidate who shares our values and who can win. So, you're going to help me with this, though, which is, towards that end, we rolled out a website. We had an initial call to 30,000 activists. That website is aftvotes.org. There's all sorts of paper around here. When you have internet, go to it. Answer the questions. Tell us what you think. And then we're doing a number of these member town halls with candidates so that our members get to ask questions, and we Facebook Live them. And then you get to see the character and the mettle of a candidate. So last month, with Senator Sanders, we were in Lordstown, Ohio, to witness what happens when industry abandons community. On Monday, we're going to be with Senator Harris in Detroit. Next week, we'll be with Senator Klobuchar in Yonkers. And the following week, we're going to be with Senator Warren in Philadelphia. And tonight, you're going to hear from somebody you probably don't know, who is a really amazing congressman from Ohio, Tim Ryan, and then he's having a town hall with some of our members. So let me end like this. Tim Ryan, right? No, you don't want to hear from Tim? Yes, you want to hear from Tim. So let me end like this. We have a world of great polarization, great division, and it's pretty scary. And even though there's been amazing things with the strikes and what we've been able to accomplish, there's very, very rough roads ahead. But Americans want a better life. They want a better future for our kids. They want a voice at work. They want to regain the power they have lost. And when people lose power, they respond in two ways: to agonize or to organize. We choose to organize. Thank you very much. So, I'm doing double duty today. So I mentioned that the AFT's endorsement process is aimed at trying to get to the broadest member engagement ever. And yes, there's a big field of people, and there's probably a bunch of people that you may have not ever heard of or know. And so we want to make sure that we can get to these kind of forums people that you may not have known or seen before. Now, people in Ohio would tell you that the guy that I'm about to introduce, Representative Tim Ryan, is someone who walks the walk. Tim, as I call him, I've known him for quite a while. I love this guy. And I love this guy because of what he does and what he represents. His district includes Lordstown, Ohio. His district includes Youngstown, Ohio. Lordstown was a once vibrant manufacturing center with factories, steel factories, auto factories. Lordstown, Warren, Youngstown. I worked in Warren when I was in college a few years ago. And when you were there in the 70s, you saw these steel factories, you saw middle class thriving. Tim decided to run for office when a lot of this was ending and fighting for the people who stayed behind and who was abandoned by people like GM or by corporate companies like GM. When the Northside Regional Medical Center in Youngstown closed last year, Tim Ryan fought alongside us every step of the way to get a better severance package for those laid off nurses and healthcare professionals. The men and women who lost their jobs at Northside are AFT members and are Representative Ryan's constituents. And this year, the men and women at the GM plant in Lordstown, some ways just like the Alcoa plant in Messina, they're AFT members who are in the schools, who are going to be abandoned by the fact that this is the last industry that is leaving Northeast, that part of Northeast Ohio. Tim Ryan understands this and talks and has a plan for how you actually help working people, an industrial policy for the United States of America. But it's not just a focus on industrial policy. Tim Ryan has introduced charter school accountability. He's actually focused on social and emotional learning before it was cool to do so. His wife, Andrea, is a proud member of AFT Local 6438, the Mineral Range or Ridge Education Association. This guy walks our walk and walks the walk of working people, and it's my honor and pleasure to introduce Tim Ryan to our brothers and sisters in NYSEG.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it. It's great to be in New York. I want to say how much I love Randy because I've seen her at so many events. She understands the fact that for many, many years, a lot of really powerful people in the United States have tried to divide working class people. Divide us by race, gender, sexual orientation, geography, public union, private union. People have spent a lot of money over the last 30 or 40 years to divide us. And we have a force of nature here trying to unite us. So I want to thank you, Randy, for being so involved. I'll tell you a little bit about where I come from. I come from Northeast Ohio. And I have a funny story to tell you about my grandfather. So I come from a long line of union people. My grandfather was a steel worker. My grandmother was an AFSCME. My mom was an AFSCME. All my cousins and uncles were steel workers or in the construction trades. And my grandfather was Italian. Now, got some of my people in here? Yeah? All right. And so I lived about 2 blocks, my brother and I, and my mom, we lived about 2 blocks from my grandparents. And so, I don't know how people shop in New York, but my grandfather has turned grocery shopping into an art form. And so, they were the best. And towards the end of his life, he couldn't really get around. And so, he called me up and he wanted me to take him grocery shopping, and I was much younger then. And so we had to go to one grocery store to get the salami because it was on sale. Then we had to go all the way to the other side of town and get the provolone cheese because it was on sale over there. I'll never forget, we had to go, there was a 30-pack of Miller High Life for $9.99 at the gas station. We had to go to the gas station and get his beer. This goes on all day, like literally hours. I wasn't as patient as I am now, and I was like, Grandpa, okay. I love being with you, we can be home. It was snowing, roads were getting bad, and he said, we got one more stop. And I said, all right, we'll go right over here. And he said, well, we can't go there. I said, Grandpa, seriously, right here's the store. He said, we got to go to the other one. I said, Grandpa, right here. He goes, we can't go to that grocery store because the meat cutters are on strike and we ain't crossing that picket line. Now that's how I was raised, that's how you were raised. We've lost a lot of that in our country. We've allowed some pretty powerful interests to divide us, but we have so many great challenges. And I will just tell you, I come from a community that struggled after the steel mills closed in the late 70s. And then it was the supply chain, and now it's auto. We just lost the last ship to our General Motors plant. And then just on Saturday night, we had a trucking company literally lay off 600 people, check this out, through a text message. That's right. They sent them a text message at 8 o'clock on a Saturday night, don't show up for work. So we've been dealing with this for 40 years. And it is time for us as working class people to say enough is enough. Enough is enough. Enough of the disinvestment. Because we have challenges. We have Andrea, Randy mentioned, my wife Andrea, she was a 4th grade teacher. Now she's a 1st grade teacher. She's in your union. You know, I know you're trying to do town halls with all the candidates. I do a town hall with a teacher every single night, so I think I win this competition, okay? I win, okay? You let everybody else know that you meet with. They got 364 more town halls to go to win, okay? And we have kids. We have kids in the school. Mason's 16, Bella's 15, Brady's 4.5. He'll be 5 in June, as he reminds me every day. And what I look at as a father, as the husband of a teacher, as a citizen from the part of the world that I come from, is that we have so many challenges right now in our society. If you look at our competition we're in with China, right? They're building islands, they're doing huge infrastructure projects, they're pouring billions of dollars into the latest and greatest technologies. They're graduating millions of STEM grads every year, and we're only graduating 500 and some thousand. Now they're bigger than we are, but they still win. We've got challenges around climate, right? We've got a 6-degree increase in climate over the next 70 years that'll provide enormous challenges to our country. We have a criminal justice system that is racist in so many different ways. We have a food system that has 700 generals saying it's a national security issue about the health of our children because we can't get enough even to go into the military. We have an agricultural system that is polluting our environment, that is causing algae blooms in the Great Lakes. We kill 220 metric tons of fish in the Gulf of Mexico every year from the agricultural runoff that we have. We have half the country has either diabetes or pre-diabetes. We have so many challenges in the United States that we have to lead the world in solving. And we have a political party in this country that controls a lot of power, that says the answer to every one of those challenges is to give a tax cut for $2.3 trillion to the wealthiest 1% of the people in the country, to lower the corporate tax rate, and all of these problems are going to go away. That's where we are, folks. And I'm telling you, as someone who probably grew up a lot like all of you did, I understand these problems, you understand these problems. We have got to get political power back in the hands of rational thinking people. That is key. How are we going to win the future? How are we going to reverse climate change? How are we going to solve these problems? How are we going to dominate the electric vehicle market? How are we going to dominate solar? How are we going to dominate wind or artificial intelligence or additive manufacturing? All of these industries that are growing at 25 or 30% a year. The industries we need to get in front of so that we can rebuild the middle class, so that we can make things in the United States in communities like the ones you teach in, so we can have taxpayers funding our schools, our cops, and our firefighters, like the good old days. And so we have this concentration of power, but it's also a concentration of opportunity for our kids and our families. It's not about redistribution of wealth. It's about the redistribution of opportunity for our kids who want nothing but to thrive. And we've got a group of people in power that are putting the middle class in survival mode. That's where they want us. And I'm telling you, as a candidate who's running for the presidency of the United States, I know what you are going through, and I joke about it with my wife, but I understand We have her friends over, our friends over, who are teachers. I hear these problems. I hear the challenges. I know them. I know them. I'm not from Harvard. I'm not from San Francisco or one of the big coastal cities. I'm from Youngstown. I'm from just outside of Youngstown, Ohio. But I know the challenges. I know the fears that you have, because we have them. I know the challenges that you have, because my family and my community, we have them. I know what scares you at night. I know what you worry about, because I worry about it too. And my community and my wife and my family, we worry about it. But you know what else I know? I know your hopes. I know what you want for your kids. Not just your kids, but the kids you teach. And you know what? Those kids, they're our kids. They're just as much my kids as the one I live under a roof with. And all I can tell you is, I will walk into that Oval Office. Randy, I promise you this. I will walk into that Oval Office every morning. And it'll be nice for a president to show up at work in the morning. I just, as an aside, I think that's a good idea. But I will walk into that Oval Office every morning, and I will think of you. And I will think of the challenges that you are going through. And I will think of the hopes and dreams that you have. And I swear to God, I will use every ounce of political power that that office holds, and I will wield it on behalf of the working class people of the United States of America. I promise you that. I promise you that. And so I'm going to ask you for your support. I'm going to ask you for your help. I'm going to ask you to help me get there. You know what? Maybe it's just a kid from Steel Country who's got to get into the White House to fix this damn mess that we're in. Maybe that's what it's going to take. But I will tell you, the challenges that we face are so great. We hear so many people so often say in the United States, you know what we need? We need another Sputnik moment. When the Soviet Union went into outer space and surpassed us, and we said it was a Sputnik moment, and America had to galvanize itself. You know what the challenge is today? We need about 7 or 8 Sputnik moments all at the same time. That's how great the challenges are. There could be nobody sitting on the sidelines. No teacher, no cop, no firefighter, no engineer, no farmer. We need everybody in this country to unite. The challenges are so great, and we're missing opportunities every single day. It is time for us to reinvest back into the United States, into our teachers, into our schools, into our communities, clean blight, clean our rivers, clean our downtowns, rebuild schools, rebuild our infrastructure, invest into the future technologies that are going to dominate the globe, reverse climate change, make sure everybody has health care. These are the pressing issues, my friends, today. These are the pressing issues. And I'm not here to say I got some fairy dust that I'm going to sprinkle. I don't have a magic wand. I'm not a savior, I'm not a superstar, but I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to jump in the foxhole with you, and we're going to grind this thing out. It's going to be hard. Nobody knows, like the teachers of this country know, how many powerful interests are behind destroying this union and destroying the working families in the United States. We've seen it. I've seen it. Watch plant closure after plant closure after plant closure. The biggest call I get to my congressional office is whether or not people are going to get their pensions, whether or not they have enough to buy their prescription drugs. I'm on the front lines. I'm ready. People say no one's ever won from the House of Representatives for a few hundred years. I don't care. You think I care about that? You think with everything going on, I'm going to give a damn about no congressman has gotten elected to the presidency? And I will say the last one to do it was from Ohio, but that's just for your personal records. We have work to do. And I want to help you. I want to help you teach kids. I love what Randy's talking about the freedom to teach. We see every single day kids that just don't have opportunity. You know, they don't have that art class that they would have really thrived in and it would have given them the confidence to move forward. They don't have that music class that they may have really wanted to gravitate towards. They don't have after-school programs. Maybe they were sick. Maybe they needed a pair of glasses and they never got them. Maybe it's that simple for some of these kids. And I just want you to know that I think it is absolutely appalling at the concentration of wealth that we see. And yet we see so many communities that have lead, the kids that live with homes that have lead paint or lead in the water, or schools that have lead paint and lead in the water. This is unacceptable. This is unacceptable. We are competing against China with 1.3 billion people. We have 330 million. I want to be the education president because we need everybody on the field playing with the Team USA jersey on, saying we want this world to be a free, democratic world, not a world dominated by Vladimir Putin and a communist Chinese regime. And I need you to help me do that. So I want to tell you one last quick story, and it's about Muhammad Ali. Because what's a good union speech without a Muhammad Ali story, right? So y'all remember Muhammad Ali, and evidently towards the end of his career, somebody went up to him and said, "Hey champ, I saw one of your fights." And he said, "Yeah, nice." You know, he had that high-pitched voice. "Yeah, nice, yeah." He said, "Yeah, I saw you and you got knocked down." And the champ said, "That wasn't my fight." He said, no, I mean, my dad took me. It was like a big deal. He said he got knocked down in the third round. He said, no, it wasn't my fight. He said, no, I never forget it. It was like a really big deal. We went, we had to drive and this and that, and I saw you, but you got knocked down. He said, it wasn't my fight. He said, what? He goes, champ says, I've never been knocked down. He said, I'm either up or I'm getting up. I will tell you that the teachers union has never been knocked down. You're either up